While it can certainly be uncomfortable to analyze personal challenges in life, for the INTP who can feel confused when it comes to self reflection, understanding these so called weaknesses can be truly beneficial. As for their friends and family, these 8 challenges may give some insight into why INTPs do the things they do. Welcome, or welcome back, psychos! Before we get into today's video, we'd love it if you liked and subscribed to our channel, as well as to click the post notification bell so you never miss new MBTI content. Alright, let's jump right into the video, starting with number 1, uncertainty and self-doubt. Most INTPs may not admit this, but uncertainty plays a huge role in their decision-making processes. Despite their stereotypical brilliance, INTPs are never overconfident in their ideas, ultimately leading them to constantly reanalyze and reevaluate, or, worse comes to worse, even scrap their genius thoughts altogether. Before even putting their plan into action, INTPs want to know that they've accurately predicted every possible flaw and have come up with every possible solution. Yet, life isn't predictable, and this is where things can get a little messy. Because life is so unpredictable, INTPs can get stuck in a rut of living through fear of failure and anxiousness that they will overlook some critical aspect of their theory, concept, or invention. This self-consciousness will linger until the INTP bites the bullet and sees that failure is all part of the process. But until then, they'll most likely wind up wasting precious time and energy second-guessing their uncanny intelligence and all the possibilities that come with it. Number 2, absent-minded disconnectedness. Open-minded, absent-minded? Well, which is it? As a matter of fact, the curious INTP is able to accurately do both. Although this clever type is known for their unmatched intelligence, they often come across as rather disconnected or mentally distracted. In fact, when this thinking type is too busy opening their minds to new possibilities, they can quickly get lost in their own train of thought, making them seem spacey from the outside looking in. Little do people know how much is going on in that INTP brain of theirs. However, this disconnectedness still comes with its downfalls that have nothing to do with how others view them. One way this detached demeanor affects them, for example, is when they get lost in conversation. Since they think about things on such an intricate level, by the time they've concluded what they want to say in response, they may notice that the conversation has moved on without them. Especially in large social gatherings or workplace settings, this particularly can make the INTP feel even more disconnected from people. Some INTPs may end up learning to stop contributing altogether, preferring to take the back seat of every conversation. Number 3, sticking to a schedule. INTPs are known for their non-conforming individualism. They don't really like having to follow the rules and expectations of people or structures set out by society. In fact, INTPs much rather focus on whatever is inspiring them in the moment, rather than relying on outer direction. However, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that lack of scheduling can certainly make things rather chaotic at times. Especially for the INTP personality type, who often finds themselves drawn in different directions, dismissing priority can actually get in the way of a lot of their anticipated success. This includes things like punctuality and time-sensitive tasks in home or work life. 2 things that INTPs can receive quite the criticism for. And although this open-minded type is willing to try implementing new ways of fixing this shortcoming, in the end, the INTP simply doesn't find it easy or natural to keep track of time or a strict schedule. Number 4, staying focused on a project. INTPs can be easily distracted when something new happens to draw their attention. Whether it's simply a mental idea or something they come across through outer experiences, INTPs are always bright-eyed and ready for the next new invention, pursuit, or learning opportunity. However, this often means keeping focused on one task can become extremely challenging. In fact, this creative type can become seriously bored with anything that they're required to do for long periods. most especially when that task doesn't challenge the INTP's mind in a positive way. So, while they can think up some of the most creative plans, the tedious tasks that are required to reach the finish line end up boring them before they actually achieve their anticipated outcome. As a result, INTPs can find it difficult to stay in one spot for too long. They want to be free to explore different schemes and paths in life, and so they can certainly be known for bouncing from one thing to the next without necessarily feeling discouraged. Number 5. Being suspicious about people. If there's one thing that gets in the way of an INTP making new connections, friendships, and relationships, it's probably their suspicious outlook on people in general. It's as if this independent type can never be too sure about a person and their intentions, often finding themselves doubting people before they have a reason to. Possibly rooted in their lack of emotional understanding, the logically brilliant INTP ends up finding different, subtle ways of testing people. Now, these tests have nothing to do with manipulation or aggravating others. In other words, INTPs aren't interested in intentionally pushing people's buttons for the fun of it. Instead, they're simply testing the waters before investing any more of themselves than they need to. However, sometimes this distance and skepticism can be noticeable for those people being tested. And in these cases, it can make the INTP seem like their intentions are rooted in something other than genuine connection. In fact, if INTPs don't challenge themselves to allow their suspicions to settle, doubts and uncertainties will eventually follow them into the relationships they try and maintain, ultimately causing a host of issues within their deepest connections down the road. Number 6. Being too critical. Some say critical, others say condescending. Depending on the INTP and the situation, this seemingly insensitive type can certainly come across as being rather dismissive of people's feelings. Similar to other thinking types, rationality is seen as the key to a happier, more common-sense-based world. While this dominant thinking function does help the INTP to make well-thought-out decisions in life, they tend to underestimate the importance of the more irrational values. Emotions, compassion, traditions. It's all a little hokey in the eyes of the INTP. And, as a result, they can be quite critical of people who don't see things the way they do, or as quickly as they do. However, it's good for people to know that most of the time, INTPs are very well intended in their criticism. They don't want to be critical to prove people wrong, they just want to make sure that what people are saying and doing is inherently right. However, there's no doubt that this habit can come off as being a little nitpicky, possibly posing a problem in relationships and even parenting. Number 7. They find it difficult to follow step-by-step instructions. INTPs are natural problem solvers, but they much rather rely on their own skills than the instructions given to them by other people. When it comes to certain things like instruction manuals and step-by-step directions, the INTP can't help but to be internally interrupted with easier, or at least different, ways of doing things. Whether they find it more reasonable to rearrange the order of the instructions given, or totally dismiss them altogether, this conceptualizing type much rather see tasks as a puzzle than a tedious task. And although this can obviously help the INTP in problem-solving scenarios, they eventually learn that sometimes instructions are there for a reason, and sometimes their way actually isn't better or easier. Yet, no matter how many times they manage to make things a little more confusing for themselves, to actually sit and follow instructions step by step is still naturally challenging. They're not a know-it-all per se, they just can't help but to have the confidence of being able to figure it out on their own. Number 8. They're always looking for the greener grass. Is the grass really greener on the other side, INTPs? Or is the grass greener where you water it? A simple concept with such a powerful meaning. One that the logician could certainly learn a thing or two from. Let's just say dissatisfaction is nothing new to the INTP personality type. Known for their jumpy and ambitious minds, this introverted thinking type can't help but to imagine how things could be better, easier, or more successful than they are. From concepts to people to societal structures, the INTP can't help but to see how and why things should go the way they think they should go. They may get caught up in insisting to try and reinvent the wheel, when in reality, they end up neglecting their own needs and responsibilities. With the ability to think up some of the most elaborate possibilities, reality can seem quite mundane and in need of improvement. Yet, it doesn't come without a price to pay, for this dissatisfaction for life has earned the INTP the name of being one of the most unhappy types in the MBTI, until they choose to see life for what it is. Well, that's all for today, psychos. So, are you an INTP personality type? If so, do you relate to these INTP challenges in life? Let us know in the comments below. Also, make sure to leave us a like, share with your friends, and also subscribe to our channel so that you never miss a video.